Good afternoon, my name is Oleksandr and I want to thank everybody who joins us in Ukraine Media Center Ukrinform. Today is day 474 of the full-scale invasion of our homeland by Russian aggressor. And now we will be talking about the situation in Kherson region. Joining us online is Oleksandr Tolokonnikov, spokesman for the Kherson region military administration. Good afternoon, Mr. Oleksandr. Good afternoon, glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. Mr. Oleksandr, let's start our conversation with the current situation in Kherson region. So, what is the situation with the shellings right now? Well, saying about the last day, I think that whole of Ukraine, but maybe all the world has found out about the cowardness of the Russians who reconfirmed their name as the terrorists of the global level. They were shelling the evacuation boats which were going from the east bank, so they were shooting people in the back, just like they promised before that everybody who will try to leave the area will be executed. Well, it resulted in death of 3 persons plus 10 more people were injured, including one of the representatives of the law enforcement agencies. People are now hospitalized. Their condition is moderate. They have the bullet wounds. Within the last day also there were 2 men rescued who were hiding from the flood and from the Russians. They were rescued in the hypothermic condition. They were delivered to the hospital and their condition is satisfactory. The Russians continue shelling Kherson from this morning, and the last shelling was in Shumansky district at 5 o'clock in the morning. 3 people were injured by shrapnel. All of them were hospitalized and they're in moderate condition. Mr. Igor Klimenko, the Minister of Internal Affairs, is the coordinator of the headquarters for evacuation. 8 people died as a result of flooding and 42 more are missing in action. Mr. Oleksandr, talking about the flooding situation, is it changing? What is the dynamics that you observe? And what is the situation with the evacuation? Is it underway? And how many people were evacuated for the time being? More than 800 people, no, more than 2,000 people were evacuated. The evacuation is underway. We continue convincing people to leave their households, but such, so to say, urgent evacuation is now over. The boats are patrolling the island and the water is receding regardless of the intense showers. Now the water is 3 meters 11 centimeters high, and I've been at Korabelna Square recently. The water is subsiding, thanks God. I hope that shortly we will be able to mitigate the consequences of this terroristic act which resulted in this flooding. Mr. Oleksandr, we keep hearing from the citizens of Kherson what they see in what they post on the social networks. We see that the water level is falling in the streets according to the reports of the denizens, but at the same time the households are flooded. Have you already proceeded to this phase? I mean, the pumping the water from the households. The pump operations are already starting. The water is being pumped in Chernobyevka district. First of all, we need to pump the water from the yards so that the water leaves the houses, because if you first pump it from the house, it will flow back through the doors and windows. So now the motorized pumps delivered by our volunteers, by our partners, start operating in Chernobyevka district, and that is going to be the following phase. The next one will be the operation of mine technicians. They will inspect the area for the mines which were brought by the streams and only after that the utility services will be able to document the consequences of this terroristic act in the households. For the time being, what are the services that are engaged in mitigation of this terrible terroristic act? What are the services and the number of personnel? For the time being, I cannot give you the exact figures because people keep coming from different regions. Policemen, rescuers, all of Ukraine stands united to help us here. The first ones to come for help were people from Mykolaiv region, Dnipropetrovsk region. People still keep coming. The rescuers continue working in shifts 24/7, and it's a lot of people, really, a lot of patriots, volunteers who work side by side with our services, the utility services, the rescue services. They work on the edge of their capabilities, but still we need more people because there are tasks. There is our joint task to mitigate the consequences the soonest possible. We have a hotline which works for uniting the volunteers and directing them to the areas which require help the most. And time will come shortly when we will need a lot of hands, a lot of vehicles that is being delivered by our partners, the charity funds, to mitigate the consequences of this tragedy. Mr. Alexander, I hope that volunteers will be hearing us too. If anything is real necessary urgently, can you orient the volunteers? What do you need? What should they take with them on the way to you? Well, I can tell you, but this need may be covered within a day or two. So please visit our Telegram channel and our social media pages. The hotline number is 0800 101 102. You can call there and ask what help is necessary in which district. We also need there is a need for vehicles. Maybe at certain moment we will need more potable water, so the information is being constantly updated what is needed in Kherson region, so that people can send that type of aid that is necessary urgently at some specific moment. Thank you for this information, dear colleagues. If you have any questions, please proceed. Irina Mamchur, Ukrinform. My question is regarding what you've mentioned already. There is information about a lot of aid incoming and something may be excessive. Is it so? Just like you said that you have to double check this information. So for the people who want to send some aid, should they first call you and ask for what kind of aid is needed? So do you have any storage facilities where you may keep that aid which is not yet used? And another question regarding the pumping of water. You said that some material will be required, but at the same time you said that there are a lot of people from the rescuers from different regions. So do you have sufficient number of specialists who are engaged in pumping the water, or maybe you would like to ask for support from the rescuers from different regions? And regarding the material, what are exactly the types of material that you need? Thank you. Regarding the vehicles, those are the tractors, excavators, which are about to work in the streets which are covered with waters and sediment, some material that would be able to take away the trash which was brought to the areas. We need heat guns that will dry the buildings so that they don't get destroyed after the water is pumped from there with the motor pumps. We need the equipment for the rescuers who work here, because the equipment is getting deteriorated in the as it's used in the water. Also, our Kherson rescue services will need some equipment with which they can cover and repair the buildings. Then we will need material for capital construction, we will need hands, we will need people. As to the people, for the time being, the number of state emergency service and national police is sufficient. They've dealt with the most difficult period when the water level was high and there was a need for mass evacuation. Now there is no such need anymore, and now the number of people is sufficient. As to the volunteers who can come and help, they continue coming, and the more people are here, the sooner we help all the people to deal with the consequences of the tragedy, to clear the debris brought by the water. As to the needs, we just yesterday we were discussing this. We will need bed linens, the sheets, the beds, the bunks, so that people can sleep, some household appliances, because everything got broken, everything that people had in their homes. So as soon as the water subsides and the buildings are dried, they will need some appliances there so they can live comfortably. Thank you. And do you have any information about the overall number of people who died in the East Bank? Well, we only have information from Oleshkiv community about 8 people who died. That's the confirmed information, but there is a lot of unverified details too. Thank you, Mr. Oleksandr. So another question as to the help. Did the regional military administration take any decisions regarding extension of some support to the people who were mostly affected by the tragedy? Yes, the algorithm will be posted in Telegram channels and our website. We are being helped by our partners, the charity funds who make disbursements, but we also get involved. And shortly we will post this algorithm at our web resources, the amounts that people will be able to receive as the support, because it was tasked by the president to develop the algorithm for calculation of compensation for the damaged property. According to the evaluation estimates of the rescuers who work now in the area, how soon will be people able to come back to their homes? Well, the sooner the water subsides, we are just concerned that now that the water that was flowing into the riverbeds of Ingulets, it will come back and it will result of slowing down of the water subsiding in Dnipro river. So it depends on how soon the deminers will be able to inspect and clear the areas, I mean the homes and the areas, because we understand that when Russians were withdrawn, they were mining the logistic ways, and now the water could carry those mines randomly to any spot. So we have to first inspect the areas very thoroughly, and then based on that amount of mines that were carried by the water and based on what the rescuers need, I think that within the month to follow we will have a lot of work. Thank you very much for joining our broadcast and for the information you've provided. I'm reminding you, dear colleagues, joining us was Oleksandr Tolokonnikov, spokesman of the Kherson Region Military Administration, and right now my colleagues are preparing the schedule for tomorrow, so stay tuned. Let's work together for our victory, and glory to Ukraine.